Hello, welcome to the second episode of the Altice International Innovation Award 2023 series. My name is Pedro Pinto, delighted to be here. Really looking forward to this conversation about the startup category. The prize up for grabs, 50,000 euros, and the decision will be made on the 21st of November. Obviously, the startup category is a very interesting one, considering the impact that it can have on the economy overall and the innovative and disruptive nature that a lot of these companies have, and really helping us find new solutions to issues and problems that can exist. I'm going to start introducing our three guests today, the finalists, in no particular order. Okay, guys. I'll start with Marta Costa, CEO of Karion Therapeutics, connecting today from Braga, a startup company dedicated to the preclinical development of innovative drug candidates for cancer. Hello, Marta.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. John Gleeson is in Dublin, the CEO of Tympulse Medical, and this is a startup with a new technology, Tympano for fast and effective repair of damaged tympanic membranes. Hello, John. Great to have you on.
Hi there. Nice to meet you all.
Last but not least, Ana-Teresa Maia. She is the CEO of expressTek, connecting from Faro. So we've got the north and the south, and I guess with me, the kind of center represented on our show of Portugal. She started a biotech company developing RNA-based approaches to revolutionize clinical testing by accurately and efficiently selecting cancer patients for targeted therapies. That's a really long explanation, which perhaps I don't fully understand. So I'll actually start with you. If you can please explain what your startup is really focusing on, the problem you're trying to solve, and how it's an innovative solution.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be a finalist in this award. So expressTek was founded because cancer patients are failed every day by treatment. And with over almost 700,000 deaths of breast cancer per year, we really need to be able to give the right therapy for each patient right from the beginning. And that's our vision. Our vision is to improve and accelerate the choice of the right treatment. And that's basically what we do. We're revolutionizing the way clinical testing is done so that we get to the right treatment and empower oncologists to have the best decisions, therapeutic decisions that they can have. We need to save time every month that a patient is in a treatment to which it doesn't respond, is about 10% less of survival chances. We need to shorten that as much as possible. So that's what we do. We're innovating with RNA because most of these treatments nowadays, they are what we call targeted. They are designed against specific alterations that exist in tumors, but these alterations are in a molecule called protein, but then the tests are carried in a different molecule called DNA. But we've all kind of like heard about COVID and the RNA molecule sits in the middle. And we cannot be testing the patients so far away from the target of the therapy. We need to get closer. So we are using RNA. We're leveraging RNA technology to identify faster and better which patients are going to respond or benefit from these treatments.
How are you doing it, and why hasn't it been done before?
It hasn't been done before because this is a line of research that I pioneered in 2003 when I was starting my postdoctoral work at the University of Cambridge. And so my boss back then and me, we are basically the pioneers of this. So I'm the world leading expert on this area of studying how these mutations or alterations in the tumors at the level of RNA bring what we call clinical heterogeneity. It means that Miss Paula has a breast cancer and Miss Laura also has a breast cancer, but it's not the same disease. And it's not the same disease mostly because their cells are interpreting the data that is wrong, the errors. They are interpreting them in a different way. And this interpretation is at the level of RNA, and that's where we come in. We try to understand why each patient has a different cancer because we want to make personalized care a reality in cancer care.
We'll get into exactly how you're doing it in a little bit, and the process and the challenges that you faced throughout the whole project. But John, a little bit of an introductory kind of brief from your side regarding the work you're doing and obviously helping patients and people who have damaged tympanic membranes.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm CEO of a spin-out company from the Royal College of Surgeons that's looking at this issue of treating people with burst eardrums that don't heal properly. And there's a surprisingly large amount of them throughout the world, particularly actually in developing countries where, you've poorer access to sort of healthcare. So there's about 200 million adults every year that have what we call preventable but disabling hearing loss. And this is where you have damage to the eardrum and it'll heal, but it won't heal properly. With adults, it causes issues at work. With children, it can cause developmental issues. And really, it's something that, quite frankly, needs to be tackled. It needs to be tackled pretty quickly. What we have developed is an interesting combination of a resorbable bioimplant, so a material that goes in and fills the void, encourages the local host cells to infiltrate that bioimplant material and to regenerate the eardrum. But we were also packaging it with an in-ear delivery system. So what's interesting is at the moment, to get the best outcome, surgeons will tend to create a very large incision behind the ear and pull the ear forward so that it's easier to work within the middle ear and get the best possible healing that they can get using existing membranes. What we're trying to do is not only improve the healing, but also give them a way to do this consistently through the ear canal. The advantage is less about cutting the ear, which is a problem because you also need to use anesthetic and that can be dangerous, but it's really about significantly shortening the amount of time it takes to do the procedure. So by combining that shorter procedure time with the lack of a need for anesthetic or general anesthetic, we could potentially move the entire procedure to an outpatient setting, so outside of a operating surgery. And of course, that's great in the developed world where we're saving money, which is a key issue, particularly for something that can be done through the ear canal. It's just a lack of tools that we haven't developed. But particularly, as I said, for the developing world in the future, where the consistency of using a standardized device when you have limited time to train a limited number of surgeons or healthcare practitioners is really important. So that's what we're trying to commercialize.
And how does the new technology work precisely?
So it works
in layman's terms, obviously.
In layman's terms, yeah. It's pretty straightforward. So basically, what we do is we manufacture the device out of naturally derived biomaterials. Some of the innovation comes, we have a very interesting way of layering the regenerative membrane that sits over the hole and encourages and attracts local host cells into and onto that membrane to kind of create a new layer on top of the membrane. But because the membrane is made, the membrane that we implant is made of naturally derived biomaterials, the body's cells will then dissolve it or resorb it away as the new tissue is formed. And what we've done is developed a very cool underlying layer, which acts as like a pop-in anchor, like a button on a belt, so that this can be pushed in and anchored in place without glues, without stitches. And of course, the advantage of that is it just all goes away and you're left with newly formed tissue. So it's a regenerative process that we've been involved in before. We were previously with a spin-out company that was looking at using these type of devices for bone and cartilage regeneration. And we're now looking at applying some of this to novel tissues, and the eardrum being one particularly interesting niche area that we think there's an opportunity. Yeah.
Okay, understood, John. Thanks for that. Marta, over to you. Tell us about Karion Therapeutics and exactly what issues specifically you're trying to resolve and its innovation component.
Yeah, sure. So Karion Therapeutics is a drug discovery and development company. And we are currently developing a disruptive drug for really aggressive cancers. So cancers that are, for example, triple-negative breast cancer or renal cell carcinoma, and that have really high mortality rates associated, up to 90%. And so we are really working towards helping these patients and increase the survival rate, but also their quality of life during the treatments.
How are you doing that?
So we have a very special molecule that we have been developing over the last 15 years, and its codename is KT408. And so this molecule has a very special and disruptive way of doing its work. So it's really different from any other drug that is used in the clinics. because actually it acts on several cancer pathways, so on drivers, on tumor drivers that are really helping the tumor to progress, and our drug acts on them and can stop them. And at the same time, it can also activate tumor suppressors that are really special molecules that are responsible and help us to kill the tumor. So unlike, for example, chemotherapy or the targeted therapies or even immune therapy, we do not only act on one cancer pathway, but we can really act on several at once, and at the same time maintaining safety for patients.
Okay. I mean, obviously, at least to me, it sounds like an incredibly complicated and sensitive process, right? That requires a lot of testing as well,
yes.
surely. So, question for all of you, but I'll stay with you, Marta, is how long did it take from the original idea, concept, to actually validating it and being able to have it ready or to be safe enough to use?
So we are actually working on this in an academic environment for 15 years. So it's a long way.
Wow. Okay.
We started just, with a fundamental science project, just out of curiosity and passion about creating new molecules. And then we had such a huge portfolio of innovative molecules. We just thought that we needed to use them to contribute to society with something positive. So cancer was our first choice because the need is there, but also due to personal reasons, because nowadays everyone knows someone that is suffering from cancer. We all know cases. So that's my personal drive. So we started to test these molecules as anti-cancer agents, and we found this really nice molecule that we are working now. So it took a lot of testing using cell lines, using animals to get here, and to have the biological profile of KT-408 really proven as a cancer agent. So the way is still very long. We have still a lot of testing in front of us, but the aim is to get into clinical trials in 3 years.
Okay. Wow. So you're definitely on the home stretch, you could say.
Yeah.
Ana-Teresa, what about your process and milestones along the way?
So mine is just slightly longer. So one of the big milestones was the publication, the scientific publication last year of the biomarker. So the actual molecule that we can use to tell whether a patient is going to respond or not. But the first time when we got that scientific publication accepted, I emailed all of my collaborators and co-authors on that publication with a photograph from 2004, which was the first time I saw a result that made me wonder what was going on. Why am I seeing this when I was expecting that? And that's how science goes, isn't it? It's the curiosity. You see something that you cannot explain, you don't throw it to the side. You chase it like it's the last bone in the desert, and you just go after it. And so 2004, I was in Cambridge, and this just started this curiosity about these mutations. And when I returned to Portugal, I got funding from Europe to return, and I've been funded by the Portuguese government via FCT to continue this line of research, which became the main one in my lab here. So we published last year, but on the other hand, the university started looking at our results and kind of why don't you protect the intellectual rights of this? And we always thought of ourselves as just mad scientists who just live in the lab. But all of my research, ever since I started, even before my PhD, has always been very connected to patients. And it's what we call translation medicine or translation research. It has the patient as an objective at the end. And the university just incentivized me to protect the IP of this, the intellectual property rights, which we did. And it's almost accepted. It's already submitted across the world in the main markets that we want to cover. And we have all of the preclinical data finished and evidence finished. So we are actually just finishing the prototype to initiate the clinical validation, which for us is a lot shorter than for a new therapeutics, for example, because we are a medical device. But our aim is to be in the market in 2 years, and in 3 to 4 years to be reaching 15% of the European and American markets.
Okay, that's an aggressive kind of timeline for sure. John, I want to know about the process, and you told me obviously this is a spin-off, but what were some of the challenges as well that you faced along the way?
Yeah, so it's been a fun journey so far, and I was fortunate enough to have gone through this journey before. So some of the problems we've been able to overcome quicker, but there's always new ones. One of the biggest challenges has been sort of really gathering the data that we need sort of preclinically to sort of support the development of the device with the new European regulations for medical devices. There's been a huge change in the sort of climate in terms of getting these devices through the market. So we've had to do an awful lot more work up front in the academic setting just to get it to the point where we have a credible package that can be invested in. So that's meant doing more preclinical work in the lab. It hasn't meant doing more animal studies. We do small amounts of those, but it has meant a much more focused animal study, which required an awful lot more preparatory work and some input from regulatory advisors to make sure that it matches what they expect to see in the future, particularly with the new rules. We were fortunate that one of the major technical problems we had was fusing these layers, this membrane that does the healing, and then the anchoring sublayer, this kind of scaffold. But I was fortunate enough that we were able to use work that had been going on for 5 or 6 years with our previous spin out, which was a layered material for cartilage. And we were able to take a lot of that learning and get it to work from a manufacturing perspective with this new device. And then the last real technical challenge we've had is packaging a device that has a larger, softer kind of membrane attached to this into a delivery device that can go down the ear, because you have problems with that membrane getting caught, getting snagged, getting torn. And if that happens, it's sort of game over in the sense that your doctor gets very, very angry at having to reload or buy another product. So we managed to overcome that as well. And at the moment, we're just putting all of this together now into a sort of a better prototype, a much more market-ready prototype.
A follow-up to you, and then both Ana-Teresa and Marta can pitch in as well. But how much of the success of your products and the work that you do along the way is about shifting mentalities and making other people believe that something this innovative in a very sensitive area as is health is possible?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question, and one that we encounter quite a lot, changing the mind and the opinions of surgeons. Right. What we've actually done with this technology, different to the last time, was we learned about that, and we've also developed a sort of training device. So we developed a very cool 3D printed, anatomically correct model of the ear and the inner ear system. And we initially were doing that just to help improve our own device. But we saw pretty quickly that actually we could use that as a training tool and a marketing tool to do what you're saying, to help convince them, not that they're doing anything bad, but that we could maybe make it better. We could make it more repeatable. We could maybe take their input and turn it into a better tool for them. So I think it's a really important question that, you know, including myself, most first startup entrepreneurs don't really think about. We think the product is great. We have the greatest invention in the world and everybody's going to start buying it. And of course, the reality is, you know, it's a dangerous operation in any surgery. Why would a surgeon try our crazy idea, you know, over what they know works and keeps their patients safe when they have to talk to them, you know, months later? So yeah, it's a challenge there. Yeah.
What about you, Marta and Ana-Teresa? What's your insight on this?
So from my point of view, patients are not a problem because they really look forward to new therapeutic options. So because everything that adds value to the therapeutic landscape will represent a higher chance for them to survive. So for medical oncologists, we are also giving more options as a first-line therapy, more options that can be combined with other existing therapies, and also an option for patients that have already acquired resistance, which is a huge problem with these aggressive cancers. So on our side, the challenge is really the funding that is needed to get this done, because it's a lot of scientific work that is very expensive. And then there is also the regulation of this pharma industry that is done by the medical agencies, medical regulation agencies as EMA. So it's really strict. So we have a lot of things to think about and a lot of compliance to do.
I'm sure, and the fact there is so much, or there are so many regulations in place, and a lot of these products are disruptive, and maybe how shall I put this? The regulations weren't there thinking about the innovation that's happening after, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So in our case, it's also really difficult to sometimes explain why our drug is so disruptive and why no one has actually thought of that. Many times people just say, why isn't this in the market? Why isn't this out there? So, it's all about making people believe that we really have what we say we have.
Yeah, and Ana-Teresa, I'm guessing you had a lot of experiences.
Well, I subscribe a lot of what Marta just said, and John, but we're also we're in this because we want to be disruptive, and if we want to bring in true innovation, we need to invade and dismantle the status quo, and that is difficult, and that takes resilience, just like John was saying. Believing, we need to have a lot of faith that what we are doing is going to help a lot of people to keep on going and doing what needs to be done. Just like Marta was saying, patients are actually they are the first and foremost beneficiaries of what we do and what we develop. But also medics prefer to go on the safer side. They don't want to hurt their patients even more than what they are going through already, you see. So those are the ones with whom we have to work the most right from the beginning. So if I'm saying in 2 years' time I want to enter the market, I'm starting to talk and enamor and convince medics now. And we are bringing in a product that is actually saying that our competitors are really missing the point. So those are big companies and they're not going to be happy. So we are also partnering with them to tell them, look, we have this new idea, take us in, help us out. Let's build this together so that we don't, as you were saying just before, we don't want to come in too aggressive. We want to be aggressive, but not too aggressive. And we are also partnering with the companies that develop the drugs. For example, Marta's company, we could work together so that we could help them find the patients that most likely will benefit from their treatment. So their drug, it's going to look even better. So we need to work on all of these people to convince them as an ecosystem that our product is definitely coming and bringing benefits to the entire system. And that takes a long time. The scientific bit, it gets to a point, it seems like it was the easiest one.
Because then you have the science part, you've got the politics part, you've got the financial part as well. Obviously, you're trying to balance and work towards making your product financially successful in the future. So, and it's a long time. I mean, two of you talked about 15, around that time. Yeah, 30. Exactly. Coming up on 2 decades, right? So it's a long time. It's a long battle, and obviously it takes a lot of perseverance. How long has your process taken, John, since the original conception of
this actual product itself? Now we're talking about coming up on, it's probably about 6 years, but then some of that layering technology which was developed before goes back much further to about 2014. So Yeah, it does take a lot of time, even with, a device like ours, a medical device. And we certainly saw that previously with our orthopedic spin out. It was scary that by the time we were actually implanting into patients, I think it was 12, 13, 14 years after the initial idea. And that's quick, supposedly. If you're a drug, I think it's 20 years from the first concept, maybe. So yeah, it's kind of good. It's frustrating. It's good in that it means patients are kept safe and we check these things. But it is a little bit frustrating because you would like, as sort of Ana-Teresa and Marta said, you'd like to get it to patients quicker and move on to the next thing.
Just a note I'm curious about. Obviously, during this process, and if we're talking about 15, 20 years, technology improves so much, right? During that period of time. So how do you adapt to that?
So it's funny you ask that, because that photograph that I sent to my co-authors on that scientific publication, it was using one of the most rudimentary analyses of genes. We call it Sanger sequencing. The biomarker was actually published using next generation sequencing, we call it. And here in the Algarve, I set up a research group that works on computational biology. So we actually use programming to analyze big data, which is something that I would never have thought in 2004.
Of course.
So it is all of the technology advancements around us that, the idea is there. It is kind of like bubbling in the back, but then you can actually, it's everything around that makes things easier and makes progress basically be exponential. A little bit just goes a long way.
Yeah, I'm sure. And especially as we enter the age of AI, for better or worse, that there's so much additional technology. Yeah. Right? That
we
you
use
have
it to actually calculate the prognostic value of the measurements of these mutations in each patient.
And, okay, last question for all of you. Why are you participating in this award, and what would winning it mean? We'll start with Anna and then we'll finish with John.
Well, pre-seed stage. So, it's an award. So it not only brings the visibility, the international visibility, and all of the connections that we're going to get, for example, on the 21st of November, it brings prize money. And at the moment, at the beginning, this is a very important issue. But we actually have an additional interest in this, in that our product, which is like a little box with reagents inside that we'll sell to hospitals and clinical labs, actually requires an analysis software that sits on the cloud. And Altice could be the perfect partner for that.
Gotcha. All right. Marta.
So in our case, it was really by looking at Altice's mission, that is really to create innovation with a positive return to society, that made us believe that we could be a perfect fit, because our mission is also really focused on creating new therapies, disruptive therapies that can help to increase cancer patient survival. So we have the same goal in the end. So why not joining forces and just creating something really positive for society and to fight really this leading cause of disease? And at the same time, also, as Ana-Teresa was saying, the prize money is really would really help us to do our work, to advance in our development. So it's just perfect fit.
Final word belongs to you, John.
You're very kind. Yeah, I think I echo what the other contestants have said. We're a small island on the west side of Europe. We have good investors here, but they don't have the firepower of Europe. So definitely we're looking to get known, to get noticed in Europe. The problem, it's a major issue for the European Union as well. So that's good. And prize money, definitely, we were very fortunate. We've just been awarded a small pre-seed fund, we call it, from our national venture company, but that only gives us about another 9 or 10 months. So we're aggressively sort of fundraising. So that's reason two. And the final reason was that we have this interesting kind of electronic component to our device where it's an in-ear system, but we have we are incorporating a kind of a simple optical and visualization system to allow the procedure to be done more consistently. And couple that with the sort of potential for artificial reality type training with our training device, we felt that sort of the Altice group and the people involved in sort of investing in some of their entities could also be very interesting to us, because we're going a little bit outside our medical device comfort zone.
Networking, support, and finances, obviously, I guess the three main pillars, and exposure, I guess, the main reasons for participating. Good luck to you all. Congratulations already on, obviously, the work that has been done to this point. You'll find out on the 21st if you're the lucky winner, but obviously judging by all of your projects and products, a lot of praise deserves to be shared already with everything that you've done so far. So good luck to you all, and thank you so much for speaking with the series today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
So that is a wrap on the second episode of this series, which aims to add value to the Altice International Innovation Award 2023. Three great projects, no doubt about that, from Ana-Teresa, Marta, and John. We'll see who the winner is on November 21st. Thanks for joining us today. See you again soon.